Bonjour classe, aujourd'hui on va parler de chapitre 9. Dans le chapitre 9, on va parler de inquiring about and sharing events from the past. So before we get started, again, remember that we're going to be, we jumped a little bit around in chapter 8. We didn't do the troisième étape, we didn't do a chapter test. We are only going to cover chapter 9.1 in chapter 9. Chapter 9 is all about the textbook that I use gives us, it frames it as telephone conversations, but you guys don't really talk to each other on the phone, and honestly, I don't really either. So we're going to frame it more around our free time and what we like to do, but still keep some of that those activities that they talked about in chapter 9 in that textbook. So, on va commencer. All right, so first we have talking about opinions and past events. Répétez-moi s'il vous plaît. Tu as passé un bon week-end? Qu'est-ce que tu as fait? Qu'est-ce qui se passait hier? Répétez-moi. Qu'est-ce qui se passait hier? Excellent. Répétez-moi. Où es-tu allé? Où es-tu allé? Excellent. To respond to some of those questions, you may say, répétez-moi, c'est très chouette. Désolé, not c'est très chouette. Répétez-moi, c'était très chouette. It was great. Répétez-moi, c'était excellent. Ça a été. Pas mauvais. And then if you had an absolutely horrendous weekend, a horrible weekend, répétez-moi s'il vous plaît. C'était épouvantable. Épouvantable. Excellent. Responding with words of sequence and our past expression phrases. Past expressions. So first we're going to do our words of sequence. So we're sequencing events. We're putting them in order. So first, we have first. Répétez-moi s'il vous plaît. D'abord. Ensuite. Sorry for the bell. Répétez-moi. Ensuite. Après. Et après ça. Enfin. Excellent. So then our past expressions yesterday. Répétez-moi. Hier. Hier soir. La semaine dernière. Le mois dernier. L'année dernière. Excellent. So, we've been dealing with the present tense this entire time. So, ER verbs, all of our irregular verbs, we're dealing with them in the present tense. So, le présent, we use this for actions that are happening right now. Je mange, I'm eating. Je joue à des jeux vidéo, I'm playing video games. J'aime français. I like French class. I am liking French class. Happening right now. In chapter 6, we talked a little bit about aller, conjugating aller, and using it to talk about what is going to happen. Le futur, the future. So we use le futur. We use this for actions that are going to happen. Je vais manger. I am going to eat. I'm not doing it right now, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the future. And I say, souviens-toi le futur. Do you remember the future tense? Conjugated aller, je vais, plus your infinitive, manger. I am going to eat. Now, today, we are going to be talking about le passé composé. And le passé composé is used for actions that have already been completed. They're over, they're done with. For example, j'ai mangé, I ate. I ate. So that is at the very bottom of the first page of your notes. Go ahead and turn over to the second page of your notes. And we're going to continue with le passé composé. Le passé composé, again, is used for actions that have already been completed. They're over, they're done with. It has two parts, and we always need these two parts to form the passé composé. Always need these two parts. The first part, you need avoir conjugated in the present tense. The avoir song that we memorize is avoir conjugated in the present tense. We call this either the auxiliary verb if we want to be fancy, or just the helping verb. The helping verb or the auxiliary verb. If you don't remember avoir, you need to have avoir down by now. We've been dealing with it since chapter 2. You need to know avoir. Second thing we need is something that we call the past participle. And we have to form the past participle. It's not just given to us. So for ER verbs, we take the ER off of the infinitive. We take the ER off of the infinitive, and we add an E with an accent aigu. So that's why on a couple slides ago, you saw this, j'ai mangé, avoir conjugated in the present tense, and then our past participle, which we know the verb, the infinitive to eat, manger, take that ER off, and we add an E with an accent aigu, manger. Sounds the same, but when it's written, has two completely different meanings. J'ai mangé, I ate. Now, in French, we have two other big groups of verbs. ER verbs, obviously our biggest group of our verb. Lots and lots of verbs in French end in ER. If you know that two-step process, remember, you can conjugate all of them. We also have IR and RE verbs. They're a little bit smaller. They're still important, though. And we're actually going to learn how to conjugate RE and IR verbs in the passé composé before we even learn how to conjugate them in the present tense. So for IR verbs, you take the IR off of the infinitive and you add an I. And then for RE verbs, you take the RE off of the infinitive and you add a U. That is how you form the past participle. To form the passé composé, avoir conjugated in the present tense, and then you need your past participle. So, continuing on, avoir again means to have. We use it in the passé composé. J'ai, tu as, il a, nous avons, vous avez, il or elle ont. So, as an example, I ate. And I give you the verb is manger, regular ER verb. We take that ER off of the infinitive, add an E with an accent aigu. J'ai mangé. I slept. Dormir is our verb. We've seen that a couple times. Dormir. We take that IR off of the infinitive over here, and we add an I. J'ai dormi. I slept. Not I am sleeping right now. I slept. And I responded. I gave you the verb répondre. Répondre. We take the RE off of the infinitive and we add a U. Répondu. J'ai répondu. I responded. So again, to form the passé composé, you always need to have two parts. Avoir, conjugated in the present tense, as you can see right here, and your past participle. Manger, dormi, répondu. The passé composé translates into three different ways into English. So, j'ai mangé, one meaning in French, can be translated three different ways into English. I ate, I have eaten, or I did eat. And down here is the avoir song for you to listen on your own time if you don't already know the lyrics, which I know you guys love that song, so hopefully we all know avoir by now. All right, moving on. That's how we conjugate that's how we form the passé composé. There are some irregular past participles that we just have to memorize, and there's several of them, but we're only going to worry about 4 of them. Faire, which means to do or to make. Prendre, which means to take, to have food or drink, remember. Voir, excuse me. I like pardon the interruption while I am choking. Prendre, which means to take or to have food or drink, remember, excuse me. Voir, which means to see. Again, don't even know how to conjugate the verb voir in the present tense, but we're going to learn how to conjugate it in the passé composé. And then lire, which means to read. We've seen that one as well a couple of times. And again, we don't even know how to conjugate lire in the present tense yet, but we're going to learn how to conjugate it in the passé composé. So, starting off with faire. Again, irregular past participle is fait, F-A-I-T. Prendre is pris, pris. Voir is vu, vu. And lire is lu, lu. So let's go through a couple examples. J'ai fait mes devoirs. Passé composé, past completed action. I did my homework. Ils ont pris un taxi. They took a taxi. Nous avons vu une pièce. We saw a play. Tu as lu un roman. You read a book. All right, and I believe this is one of the last things that we're talking about with the passé composé. Yeah. Last bit of grammar here. Ne pas with the passé composé. Remember that the ne pas, it's a sandwich, so it goes around the conjugated verb. And this rule is not changing for us. When you're using a ne pas sandwich with the passé composé, you put the ne pas around the conjugated verb just like we have always done. No rules are changing here. For example, in the present, this is the present tense. Je, here's our verb in green, étudier. Your ne pas sandwich goes around your conjugated verb. Je n'étudie pas français. I am not studying French. In the passé composé, it goes around our conjugated verb. Now notice, over here, the past participle is not considered a conjugated verb. It is a ne pas sandwich. You should only have one thing in between your ne pas. And in the passé composé, it is going to be avoir. So, past tense, I did not study. This is your helping verb, your auxiliary verb, avoir here. And then this is your past participle. And again, that past participle does not go into the ne pas sandwich. Je n'ai pas étudié français. I did not study French. All right, and then this is where a lot of our vocabulary is going to come in. And this is the last little bit of your notes here. So we're going to talk about this in class. There are a couple of verbs in French where instead of using avoir as our auxiliary verb, our helping verb, we use être, which we talked about in chapter 7? Yeah, chapter 7. Don't worry about memorizing which ones use which verb. We're only going to be learning that these two phrases use être. And this is more of a French 2 topic. So just know that these two use être. We have our past participle here, aller and sorti. And again, your past participle, only for the ones that use être, they have to make an agreement. So, je suis allé au zoo. I went to the zoo. Add that extra E if you are a girl. Et je suis sorti avec mes amis. I went out with my friends. Add that extra E if you are a girl. Other than that, we don't need to worry about making agreement. We don't need to worry about être. We don't need to worry about any of them. For the rest of these, our auxiliary verb is going to be avoir, and our past participle is going to follow the rules that we just learned about, or those 4 exceptions. Donc, répétez-moi s'il vous plaît. J'ai raté le bus. J'ai trouvé 20 €. J'ai oublié mes devoirs. J'ai déjeuné à la cantine. J'ai rencontré une fille sympa. J'ai chanté dans la chorale. J'ai acheté un livre. J'ai travaillé au fast-food. J'ai apporté du papier. J'ai cherché mon jean. J'ai commencé mes devoirs. J'ai dîné avec ma famille. We have a couple more to get through. I won a game. Répétez-moi. J'ai gagné un match. J'ai montré mon portable. J'ai passé un examen. Notice how we are not using prendre for a test. This is a phrase. Passer un examen is an expression. You pass a test. You don't take a test. Répétez-moi. J'ai raté une interro. J'ai répété la guitare. And finally, j'ai visité mes grands-parents. Excellent. All right, let's go over our accent marks again. So this is the following page in your notes. Les accents. Accents are important for spelling, pronunciation, and meaning, especially our spelling and pronunciation. Actually, all of those, spelling, pronunciation, and meaning, yeah. But here, especially with our accent aigu numéro 1, we're going to be talking mostly about pronunciation and spelling. So the accent aigu, remember 8 to 2, looks like a clock. Down here, 8 to 2. Think of this as your clock hands, 8 to 2. We pronounce the E like an A. That's what our accent aigu tells us to do. For example, zéro, un élève, and un éléphant. We use this in le passé composé. If you are writing your past participle for those ER verbs without this accent aigu, that is wrong. That's incorrect, and I will mark it wrong. You need to have this accent aigu. Because again, it's very important for pronunciation. When we were first learning ER verbs, for example, je mange, I am eating, in the present tense, I told you, we don't pronounce that ending E sound because there's no accent over it. You don't pronounce it. Je mange. And this was really tricky for a lot of us, and it always is for French 1 students. Always is. Not to pronounce that ending E sound in the present tense, or the ES, or the E, or the ENT. It always is. I get it. However, we don't pronounce that E sound because there's no accent, and now, with the past participle, there is an accent, so we need to pronounce it. Je mange, present tense. J'ai mangé, past tense. Mange, manger. So there is a difference in how you pronounce these. We need to be pronouncing that E with an accent aigu now. All right, so our other accents, we have le accent grave. Remember that le accent grave goes down to the grave. Goes down, down, down. We pronounce the E like we would in English. No real change there for our pronunciation. No pronunciation change over an A or a U. And a couple of examples: à tout à l'heure, très, and ou. Ou. We have l'accent circonflexe. Remember that this is your party hat. I know my face over there is blocking it. This is your party hat. It appears over any vowel A, E, I, O, or U. And again, there's no pronunciation change. For example, à bientôt, hôtel. Next, numéro 4, we have le cedi. Cedi. And remember that this tells us to pronounce the C like an S. It's not a K sound, it's a S sound. For example, ça, français, garçon. We've seen garçon. We've seen lots of cities so far. And then lastly, we have le tréma. Le tréma. And remember that the tréma is placed over the second vowel when those two vowels need to be, the sounds need to be separate from each other. So placed over the second vowel when two vowel sounds are next to each other, and both should be pronounced separately. For example, Noël, maïs. We hear a difference between the A sound and the I sound. This is a really good example because we have the word that we've seen lots and lots before, mais, but in French, same spelling except no tréma, mais. That A and that I sound get smushed together, mais. Then we have maïs, same spelling, but we do have that accent tréma over that I. And you can hear it when you're saying it. You can hear the A sound and you can hear the I sound, and they're very distinct. Maïs. Maïs. Noël. Noël. Different sounds there. Remember that it is optional to have accents on capital letters. For example, ça va and ça va. Both are correct. But again, this is only on capital letters. All right, lastly, we're going to be talking about this in class. But if you're absent, we are going to take some notes on Arles, which is a city in France. I mixed up my pronunciation in between the English and the French. France. It is down here in the district, I guess, Marseille, down here on the southern border of France. Donc, l'histoire d'Arles. Julius Caesar established a Roman colony here in 46. Trying to find my Arles notes in my packet. Give me a second. Constantine the Great made Arles the capital of his empire in 306. En 1239, Arles became part of Provence, and in 1400, 81, Provence became part of France. This part of France is still often called Provence. Arles is known for its red brick roofs and thick sing-songy accent. We're going to talk about this in class, but here's a little question for you. Where do you think these influences come from? Why do they have these red brick roofs? Why do they have this thick accent? Think about that. We're also going to be talking about Vincent van Gogh, who was a Dutch painter. He's not French, but he spent lots of time in France. You probably know him from Starry Night. You might know him as the guy who cut off his ear. Yes, that's him. Yes, we're going to talk about him. So, tired of the busy city life, Vincent van Gogh headed south in February of 1888 in search of warmer weather and the inspiration of the Provence region. During his 15 months in Arles, Van Gogh created over 200 paintings. That's a lot. Many of them are now known as his best works. You may have also seen this painting before. This is a very famous painting there. So we're going to be talking about a couple places in Arles. This is one of them, Les Alicants. It is a famous Christian cemetery painted by artist Vincent van Gogh. He painted Les Alicants a lot. And Les Alicants, of course, is located within Arles. So these are just 3 of his many, many paintings of Les Alicants. And then this is Les Alicants today. Here's some more of his very famous works. And again, these are all from when he was living in Arles, those 15 months. This is a very famous painting. You've probably seen it before. I actually have socks that have that painting on them. Next, we're going to be talking about Les Arènes d'Arles, which is a Roman amphitheater built in 90 AD. Today, it is the most prominent tourist destination in Arles, but after its construction, it held over 20,000 spectators for chariot races and bloody hand-to-hand battles. So again, Arles is a Roman city, very rich history. And this is, the Romans, they were known for their chariot races and their bloody hand-to-hand battles. So this is where some of those took place. This is another painting by Vincent van Gogh of Les Arènes. Next, we have La Camargue. It is a nature preserve founded in 1927. Oui, 1927, and has since become a tourist destination. Its wetlands serve as a natural habitat for flamingos, bulls, and wild horses. So there's some of those flamingos down there. Very pretty place. And here we have, you can see Les Arènes. Any other place that we're going to, the amphitheater, which we're going to talk about. Here's another arena. Actually, I'm not familiar which one we're talking about. I lied. This is the one that we're definitely talking about in class. Arles is also known for its many, many, many festivals. We're going to talk about a couple of them. Each July, the photography world comes together for Les Rencontres d'Arles to share and sell their work. So here are some pictures up here, and my face, as always, is covering it. So here's Les Rencontres de la Photographie, which was Arles in 2009. They host this every year. This is just the 2019 flyer, I guess, poster. Next, we have Les Suds at Arles. Arles has hosted a very popular music festival, Les Suds at Arles, since 1996. And lastly, Le Théâtre Antique is a Roman theater built during the reign of the first Roman emperor in the 1st century. It serves as a beautiful backdrop for Les Suds at Arles. So you can see here, this is they're obviously setting up for Les Suds at Arles here. They have that big stage. And then here are some pictures of Les Suds at Arles, including that sign that we saw, that logo, which is located at Le Théâtre Antique. So just a quick contrast between, we've talked about Poitiers in the beginning of the year, we talked about Péry in about the middle of the year, and now we're talking about Arles. So just a quick contrast between Poitiers and Arles. Poitiers is located more or less in the center of France. It was under Roman control in 56, 56 BC. It has La Pierre Levée, that prehistoric monument of rocks. It also has Le Futuroscope, which is that futuristic theme park. And there's also a great mix of old and modern. Arles now, switching to Arles, is located in southern France. It came under Roman control in 46 BC and has the Roman amphitheater. It also has La Camargue, a nature preserve known for its wild horses, bulls, and pink flamingos. And famous artist Vincent van Gogh painted many, many, many paintings here. Of course, as with mostly everywhere in France, both cities have a rich history, rich art, rich religion, so on and so forth. And that is all that I have for you today. That's all for Chapter 9. That's everything for Chapter 9. We're going to be splitting this up into several days, but I hope this video lesson helped you out. Au revoir, à bientôt.